You had information yesterday that you sent me. I read it to the audience. Speculation about what may have led him to plead regarding his parents. And let me just give you this bit of information from the courtroom about Kohberger's parents, and then you can fill things in, Howard. Brian Enton of News Nation's reporting as follows. Bryan Kohberger's parents are not crying, but they look sad, unlike their son, who looks stone cold. He admitted it all. I'm sitting behind his parents. So the parents were there today, maybe not his sisters from the sound of it, I'm not sure, but his parents were there. And that leads me back to Steve Gonsalves, because outside the courthouse this morning, he had a couple of odd comments. I mean, odd in that I didn't fully understand them, about asking the news media to go check out when Bryan Kohberger's father bought his plane tickets to come out. Do we have that soundbite, you guys? We can play it. Stand by. Here it is.
Do you have any message for Kohberger's family?
Yeah, what do you want Kohberger to do?
We know when you flew out here. We know. We have your flight records.
How are you preparing to see him today?
I'm not going to see him.
When you say you know the flight records, what do you mean, Steve?
I know when his parents booked their flight. When his father did.
What does that mean?
You'll find out.
Would you like to say something to them?
No, I don't care about it.
The rest of your family went inside. Is it important for them to be in there today?
Yeah, for sure.
Where are you going? Are you not able to
Getting out of this zoo.
You're not staying in?
No, I'm not going to.
First of all, it's remarkable because he's usually very composed, and you can see today was tough for him. But what do you make of Kohberger's family, their presence there, and what, if any, role they had in his reversal? Because all along, the word had been he's not taking a plea. He wants to go to trial.
What I discovered in the course of my reporting, that early on, Ann Taylor had a sense that this is a case that she would like to get a plea deal. She approached Kohberger and discussed it with him. This was before there was the alternate perpetrator ruling that was ruled out. And he said no, because his mother was insisting that she did not want her son to admit to guilt to these crimes. Maybe she didn't believe he was guilty or whatever. Then it seems, and this is what I've been told, this is what has been suggested to me, that it's a matter of record that after the murders, on 6 a.m., he called for an hour at the parents' home in Pennsylvania at 6 a.m. He spoke with his mother, not his father. It was suggested that the state was now going to call the mother to the stand and want to find out what was said during that phone call. That caused Kohberger, as it was reported to me, a great deal of distress. He did not want this to become public. He also did not want, it was brought up to him, that his father would have to testify, perhaps on the stand, about what was said during their cross-country trip that I write about in great detail in my book and in the airmail articles. He wanted that to be kept secret too. So part of the reason I've been told that he finally agreed to tell his team, try to see if we can get a plea deal, was that he wanted to keep his parents from testifying. He didn't want them to be put in a situation that might leave them in some sort of jeopardy, might impugn their reputations in the community. He was trying to protect them. That led him
that's
to make
interesting.
this deal.
What you just said, because I struggled with this yesterday, asking how can a sociopath who takes the lives so easily of four innocents then have empathy for his parents? Like, well, gee, I don't want that. But maybe it's not empathy. It's that I don't want them to be in the position of like going to jail. I'm human being enough to say I don't want them becoming like the parents of that guy down in Florida, Brian Landry, who killed Gabby Petito. And it was very clear the parents knew what their son had done. They denied it, but they've become the scourges of the nation because it was very clear that they let Gabby Petito's parents suffer while they knew their son had done something terrible.
These are the only anchors he has for the rest of his life in jail. He wants to protect them. If he can get out of this quickly, everyone wants to just get this over with and move on. And that's why I also find so distressing that the judge allowed this gag order to stay in place till after everything is done. So everything that reporters might find out would become ancient history by the time it gets out there.
Well, I mean, they haven't been able to stop you, Howard. It's been incredible, the scoops you've gotten that we've then watched come alive as the case went on. Scoop after scoop would be verified later as I think in some of the cases, law enforcement got more bold about releasing some of their things. And let me just ask you to follow up on that, Howard. On that Dateline special that had so many previously unknown details, do you think that was law enforcement cooperating with Dateline? Do you think there was some disgruntled cop who was like, this thing's not going the way I want it to go, and I got to make sure this stuff gets out there?
I participated in that special.
Yeah, you were in it.
So, I really don't want to comment on it and say about any of the sourcing on it. I think it would be unfair to my involvement in there. But just the producers did a tremendous job. They really broke this case open.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's interesting. All right, I'm going to text you offline, and then I'll get back to my audience in a way that's reportable. Okay, Phil Holloway joins us now. He just beamed in. We were on the air together not long ago talking about the Diddy trial, and I have to say, Phil, what a bad day for justice this is. What a bad day. Diddy gets off on the main charges against him, and Bryan Kohberger didn't get away with murder, but his life is spared, and he doesn't deserve it. Your thoughts?
I'm joining this conversation with your other guests a little late, and I'm not sure what their position may be on this. But look, as I said, as we were heading out of our earlier Diddy discussion in the last minute or so of that, I think this is a travesty. I think that they had a open and closed case against Kohberger. I think it was an obvious conviction. And after hearing this presentation today and the change of plea hearing, I'm even more settled in that conviction. The only real reason that I can think of is when I was a prosecutor, we always were told that victims get a say in these things. Now, they don't get to drive the train, and I understand that maybe some of the victims' families may have supported this, but you needed more unanimous agreement. The victims' families needed to know the why of all this, I think, to get enough closure. Now, I'm sure there's reasonable arguments on the other side of that as well. They don't have to live through the appeals process and thinking about this for the next several decades. All those are valid points. But if you have the victims that are not unanimously on board, then I don't see how they can go forward with a prosecution that does not include the death penalty.
Can you, Matt, go to the defendant who's come to you saying, please make an offer, and say, I'll consider life without parole if we get a full allocution from you. We want to know the details. The families will not sign off on it, and I'm just not going to do this without their blessing unless they have questions answered, and that's what we need. Can you do that?
100% you can do that. 100% that's available. And the only thing is to keep in mind here, Megyn, it's not life without possibility of parole. It is 50 to life is what we're talking about. Consecutive sentences of burglary plus the 4 murders. And that's 50 to life right now, mandatory minimum, until, like you observed yesterday when we were talking about this, until they change the law in Idaho. Hopefully they don't, but in California, where I am, our legislature changes the law to the benefit of defendants all the time. And 50 years is an awful long time for that law to change. And,
Why
and
isn't
especially
it life
when
without
it comes
parole?
to this is a 10-year mandatory minimum. So that's 10 years to life, essentially, for each one in Idaho. Stacking them consecutively means this is a determinant sentence. I believe at sentencing day, unless there's some provision in Idaho law I'm not aware of, he's looking at 50 to life, which means if he survives long enough, he would have an opportunity for a parole hearing. That's something that hasn't been discussed yet, but that's my reading of what I heard.
Wait, how can that
today.
be? Because they said they'll run consecutively, meaning one after the other. So it'd be 50 years potentially on each murder victim, plus another 10 on the burglary.
No,
so that would be
10 years.
No?
It's a 10-year minimum stacked up. It's a 10-year minimum for each murder. So, like in California for a second-degree murder. Howard, you're shaking your head. Did I do my math wrong?
No, it's right. It's just I'm shaking my head in disgust. I mean, we talk about politics being the art of the deal. Well, this was Thompson's chance to make the deal. He had all the cards, and he just blew it.
And by the way, Philip, just so you know, everything you said, I agree with. You basically echoed everything I said, too, as another former prosecutor.
So you're telling me, Matt, just to back to your main point, there actually is a chance under this deal that he could see the light of day again.
I think there's a good chance he'll get a parole hearing. Whether hopefully he's never given an opportunity, and the parole boards in Idaho remain steady. But California, we've seen a huge shift to the left, and to people getting out, and the legislature has passed multiple laws that make it easier and easier for lifers to get out. Life used to mean life in California, and over the last 15 years, it has tacked very dramatically the opposite way. So who knows what's going to happen in Idaho? But that's the thing. LWOP is not his sentence. He will have a mandatory minimum time, I believe, based on this math, of 50, and it might even be less than that if burglary is less. He's agreeing to the 10. But as I'm writing down the math, and my math is usually wrong, but this is going to be, I believe, a 50-year to life sentence where he will do a mandatory minimum of 50, less the Berg potentially. But he's going to be eligible for a parole hearing based on what I heard today in court.
Since President Trump was sworn in, his administration has made enormous progress at a breakneck pace. But don't forget, while they are moving mountains for the good of the nation, you've got your personal savings to worry about. And one of the best ways to look after your savings is through diversification, particularly with gold, like from Birch Gold Group. In the past 12 months, the value of gold has increased by 40%. And Birch was an advertiser on this show 12 months ago. If you had purchased then, you'd be 40% richer today. Now's the time. Central banks continue to bolster demand for gold by burying in record quantities. Global instability and tension is high, and Birch Gold makes owning physical gold so easy. Easily convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or buy some to store in your home safe. Just text MK to the number 989898, and Birch Gold is going to send you a free info kit on gold. Look into it, see if it's right for you. There's no obligation, just useful information to help you make a decision. With an A+ rating, with a Better Business Bureau, and tens of thousands of happy customers, take control of your savings today. Text MK to 989898. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.